Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
Here in this phenomenal race, Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that pivotal lead, 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name.
And here we are. Welcome everyone, and a very good evening to PSGL PC F4, where tonight we have our season finale around the Bahrain International Circuit. I'm your host for tonight. My name is Mitsky, and I'm joined, as always, in the commentary box by Zataxter. Good evening.
Good evening, mate. It is wonderful to get behind the mic alongside you for the season finale. Of course, we missed out on the championship itself. The champion has been crowned already, but season finale, I think that's the cherry on top of the icing that nobody wants to really miss. Be it in Formula 1, be it in sim racing, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, indeed, quite a shame that we couldn't catch the season finale around the UK, around Silverstone last week round, but I heard we had some splendid substitutes covering for us last week round. We'll take a look at the results of the last race in a moment, but first we're going to take a look at how we all came here. It's now round 11 Bahrain, so we've already had 10 races. Let's take you a little bit back in time. So if we go to our calendar, we saw the season opener was in Japan. That race was won by Joris Kruse, who also went on to take the second race in Qatar. After that, was finally someone able to step up and beat him. That was Simone Violo in the Ferrari, taking his race win. And with the race in Vegas, then after some carnage, remember that carnage, the race was won by Elliot Noren. If there's one race this season you want to watch back, it's probably that one. It's pretty great. Then we went to Austria, where we had yet another win for Joris, his third win of the season up until then, and all the way throughout, at least until now, 6 race wins to his name, because he did not win round Monza. That was a race win for Elliot Noren, but round 7, 8, and 9 in Singapore, Spain, and Miami all went to Joris. And then last week round, it was a race win for a new driver, but we've seen him before. I've seen him in some pretty high leagues. Nico Benz. He came in as a reserve driver and immediately won his race. That's quite extraordinary, isn't it, Zatexter?
Yeah, without a doubt. It's performances like that, sets certain sim drivers apart. And, heading into the finale, I'm only thinking if there's one race you want to give it your all to wrap up the season itself and show that you've had much more potential than the amount of points you've received throughout the season. It's this one, and I'm excited. And which better place to go to than Bahrain?
Yeah, so for the real F1 season, it's the opener. For tonight, it will be our season finale. And after we've taken you through the calendar, I think it's a good idea to take you back to last race and the full results, which we have on the screen for you here. So here they are. Let me also get them in front of me. So our race results for Silverstone. It was pole position for championship leader and eventual championship winner Joris Kruse in the Alpine with a 1:24.368, just slightly quicker than Elliot Noren and ahead of the reserve driver who went on to win the race, Nico Benz. And as you can see, there was only a 5-second penalty added to Andres Franco, but that did not change his final race position. It was a race win for Nico Benz, just over a second ahead of Elliot Noren, who's still in the fight for P2 in the standings. Then it was P3 for Javier Domin, followed by Daniel Parodi, Toppe, Simone Violo, Emil Lundell, Sparky, championship winner Joris Kruse. Even with P9, he was able to secure it. And then our final point went to Harry 12i. That means we can look at the full driver standings. Do you have those in front of you, Zataxer?
Unfortunately not.
Then I will take you through those. So the driver standings, as you can see on the screen, the championship has been won by Joris Kruse, 110 points, a 24-point lead, and with only 17 points left to grab here tonight, means he has sealed it last week round. But there's still quite a close fight for P2. Elliot Noren, Toppe, 86, 84 points. So definitely potential for a different runner-up at the end of the season. If we look further down, Simone Viola already secured his P4. And then, perhaps for P5, we might see some changes with Kornegolo, Alan Benasak, Javier Domin, actually quite a bunch on a lot of points, quite closely linked to one another. And we can see the full top 10 rounded off with Emil Lundell and Daniel Parodi. Daniel Parodi, who've only done 3 races, did already set a fastest lap. His worst placement, 5th. Also 4th position, 3rd place. So Daniel Parodi definitely will be a driver to watch out for tonight as well. Constructor standings then. There's still something to fight for here tonight. So we're just going to zoom in on the championship teams. Alpine is leading the pack, 137 points. But Alfa Romeo still in for the mix with 112 points. But they'll need to snatch away a 25-point deficit. And with a total of 29 points up for grabs, that is not going to be an easy task. What do you think, Zataxer?
Yeah, without a doubt, heading into the last race of the season, the pressure is on, as you'd expect on the constructors front. Hopefully, given it's the last race, I'd like to see a little bit of teamwork of sorts, at the very least. I know there could be a rule in place where you can't really give tow to your teammate during qualifying sessions. But regardless of that, I think one thing we have seen before in the past in PSGL F4 is that We see the pair in the same constructor do formidably well. They're equal in pace, and somehow they get their strategy. They might pick two different strategies, but in the interest of points, they'll do a good job in the race. So I hope to see that out here today. But as I say that, I see 13 drivers now in the pits getting ready for shock qualifying. 18 minutes of shock qualifying. Unfortunate to see some of them alone out on track. But the McLaren pair, they're there together. And the Mercedes pair. So maybe we see a proper fight between those two.
Yeah, we will go into that in a moment. We'll have 13 drivers tonight. A few drivers had to drop out because of broken gear. One driver also had to drop out because of a storm. That was Aryan Sanga, I believe. But as I mentioned, tonight, the season finale around the Bahrain International Circuit. Let's quickly take you through the track map before we head into the race. So the Bahrain International Circuit has 15 turns, 5.4 kilometers, 3.3 miles long, with the first race in 2004. Lap record set in 2005. Pedro de la Rosa, 131.447. And first featured a race with two layouts in 2020. The start to turn 1, 336 meters, and a pit lane time loss of 18.9 seconds with 3 DRS zones. Let's go in-game. And let's have a look. And in the meantime, also a quick shout out for the Sim Racing Center, as they have joined and partnered up with us here at PSGL as a new sponsor. So huge shout out to them. Thank you for joining us. And for our viewers out there, definitely make sure to check out their website and use the code PSGL for a healthy 10% discount at checkout. So definitely use that. And as well for our sponsors, GT Omega. Same story, called PSGL, 5% discount on checkout. Definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, only the beginning for our sponsors soon enough, considering a new season might be in sights, but it's all about this season finale tonight. And we've got just over 15 minutes left to qualify. You can see, as always, you got drivers coming out for their out laps, their first set of lap times, to see where they stand amongst each other around Bahrain International Circuit. Of course, we've known, some of these drivers to be fighting up in front more often than not. The likes of Tope, Jeremy Gallagher in the Alpine, Emil Lundell on occasion as well. But I'm curious to see if we see a left field, order heading into qualifying this time around.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I'm just quickly checking the results and everything, because it looks like a few drivers also that are within the fights still with what is left to be decided are not here tonight. And if I get these standings in front of me for the drivers, I believe Elliot Noren is second in the standings, and he's not here tonight. But our driver third in the standings, Tope, is here tonight. So if he picks up more than 2 points tonight, he will inherit that P2 in the championship. And also because we only have one of the Alfa Romeo drivers, because Elliot Noren is not there, that also means that Alpine has already sealed the championship in the constructor standings without even starting qualifying. So that's impressive.
No, I'm impressive without a doubt. And credit to them, I think they've been phenomenal throughout the season. And as I say that, it's a Red Bull of Harry 12 high, 1 minute 27.457. Oh, quickly taken away. It was actually much more than that. 8.66 was the lap time, but Javier Domin picked it off about half a second quicker. And of course, we're going to get to see a bunch of lap times come out on the time sheets.
Yeah, we were just on board with Tope, went very wide in the final corner, just keeping it on track, but not being fast enough to contest Javier Domin for that pole position. He's the only driver to dive into the 127.4s. He's 4/10ths quicker than current second place driver Harry 12i. And just as I say that, it is Alpine fresh of the table. The Alpine Constructor winner, Jeremy Gallagher, who picks up the provisional pole, 127.417, so 400ths quicker than Javier Domin. Simone Violo currently slotting in P3, and we have just one more driver on the track currently. That is Andres Franco. He has unfortunately invalidated And with Sasha, so that's Sparky, Noel Carmen, and Modesto Mena entering the pits already. They likely picked up track limits as well. So 9 drivers that set their lap times for now, but 3 drivers only being really close to one another. The rest has, well, quite a gap to still close down.
Warming up, I reckon. They've got only 12 competitors around, right? As a driver out there right now. So maybe they got more time than they think. And it is Bahrain, so a last minute chance of rain out of the blue is probably highly, highly unlikely. So I think they can be confident enough to get some warm-up laps in before they come out and set their fastest lap times around this circuit ever. That would be something, wouldn't it? One of the back markers, even Noah Carmen, Modesto Mena. These lads are good drivers regardless. They fail to qualify in the top 3 more often than not.
Yeah, the moment most drivers are heading into the pits or are in the pits already. Currently 2 drivers out on track on an out lap, but those are Sparky and the Alpha Tauri, I have to say. I already have to think about the new team name. Did you hear the new team name for Alpha Tauri for next year?
Oh yeah, Visa, Cash App, RB, MasterCard. I don't know, bro.
Yeah, I think Visa, Cash App, RB, and then RB, I think, has to stand for Racing Bull. So, an interesting name. I think a lot of people are still going to call them Alpha Tauri or even Toro Rosso is what they were called back in the day. But we will see how that is going to unfold in the new season. Remember, testing, I believe, starts in February, just in a couple weeks' time here in Bahrain, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm pumped for it this season, and yeah, coming off of an announcement as a Ferrari fan, I might as well throw it out there. Leclerc is staying. Now, whether that's good or bad, I'm pretty sure a lot of people have their own opinions. I'm just happy, and yeah, I just hope they do well next season.
Yeah, I think it's a really good move by Ferrari to sign, their star driver, so to say, not to discount Carlos Sainz, of course, but it was Leclerc that they brought in as the talent, and well, he really is the driver. If they want to take a title sooner or later, that it has to be Charles Leclerc, and they want to make sure he commits to them for the very long term so they can seal a title with them. So it's nice to see him extend. We don't know for how long. I believe he had a contract until 28, but they've now extended it. Or was it a little bit less time? I thought it was 28, right?
No, I believe it was a contract at the end of next year. Or, yeah, next year or something.
Okay.
Not too sure, but I heard rumors and, posts around X that it was another 5 years.
Alright, that is good to hear. In the meantime, we are on board with Sparky. We've been on board with him for almost the entire lap, so we have a bit of a view of the Bahrain International Circuit as we see Sparky set a purple second sector, so definitely on for quite a good lap as he's now coming around the final corner, turn 15 here. And as he doesn't take too much risk there, make sure to keep it clean between the lines. He comes across the line in a 28.002, which is identical to the lap that Tope has said earlier.
Oh, that's beautiful to see. I wish that was for pole position. Unfortunately, it's not for now. Who knows? I mean, Tope, we've seen him come back from, those midfield lap times before, and maybe he puts it on provisional pole. We see, Sasha right up there.
In the meantime, Noel Carmen, the only driver on a fast lap, has also set a purple second sector. So let's see if he can get a little bit closer than Sparky was able to do. Takes a lot of risks on the final exit, turn 15. Now coming across the line, just a little bit slower, unfortunately, 28.103. So not able to beat that just yet. But our man that is likely to finish second in the championship standings is now out on a lap as well. That is Tope, and his first sector is 21 thousandths of a second quicker. So with that, he's well on his way to at least improve one position.
Yeah, sector 2 lighting up yellow briefly for a slow-moving car, giving way to a quicker one. Violo, meanwhile, throws himself on third fastest. Was there an incident we missed?
Yeah, we were on board with Tope, and he slammed into the back of Harry 12i, the Red Bull, in the very slow turn 8. So Tope's lap has been crushed because of that. Pretty sure there's going to be some sort of inquiry about that later on. I believe he's also missing a front wing end plate on the left, as he is indeed. So he will have to come in get rid of that damage and then go out for another lap. He will have enough time for that, but definitely compromised his lap out now in a second run in which he seemed to be quicker. No, it's Kubitrasiak, sorry. Harry is already on a lap now. It was Kubitrasiak who he hit. So just to correct that real quick. In the meantime, I want to go on board with Javier Domin. He was currently in P2, now going to the end of Sector 2. Almost losing it there to the fast left-hander. And at the end of Sector 2, we see that he is 4/10 off of his lap time. So he's not going to improve either.
Yeah, tricky times around Bahrain as we close in on the 7-minute mark of this qualifying section. But across the line, it turns out Daniel Parodi puts himself third, fastest, trumps Violo down by a position, puts himself up there. So that tiny little prediction you could consider of mine is seeing some of these drivers who we've not seen up in front throw a left field result of sorts for the viewers watching as well as us here in the comms box. Would be an absolute treat. I'm very curious to see how Tope and Sasha does, and as I say that, I believe that was Violo getting his third fastest spot back.
And it indeed was on a really good run, lost a little bit of time in the final sector, but still enough to improve a position, as Tomas Kokani currly is about 10th and a half quicker just in Sector 1 alone, and at the end of Sector 2 he improves that just a little bit, almost 170 thousandths of a second, so 1700ths, or a little over a second and a half. Want to be a bit too precise here tonight, but it would be enough to improve him from P7 to P5 if he can keep that trend going. Now coming around the final corner, turn 15, and across the line, comes around. Indeed, in P5 improves a lot in the final sector, which is just 2 corners, but he improves over a 10th there, and now finds himself P5, 127.606, with a couple drivers still out there to try and improve on his lap time.
Onwards, onwards, and onwards. Some of these drivers go 1 minute 27.36. Jeremy Gallagher beats his own lap time to stay fastest as he has been throughout this qualifying session so far. No one's been able to trump him ever since he's picked that fastest lap position in this qualifying session so far. So, Jeremy Gallagher just showing off almost around Bahrain on why his team ended up winning the Constructors' title this season.
Yeah, when he's going to come out for his third and final lap, we're definitely going to go on board with him to see how quickly he can go around this Bahrain International Circuit. We are now once again on board with Sasha, aka Sparky, when he goes out for his third lap, which could potentially be his final lap after he had to abort a lap earlier on because likely of track limits. He's now at a 128.002, same time as Tope, as he also comes across the line and will go for a quick lap. So after Sparky has come through, we can immediately watch Tope and see how much he can improve. In the first sector now, coming to the end of turn 4. Go around that very slow corner where we've seen drivers in the past pick up quite some track limits before, and he is indeed 600ths quicker than his own previous lap time, but still has to bridge almost 2.5 tenths if he wants to improve a position. Well, 2 really.
Well, he doesn't have traffic necessarily out there, so it looks like he can get in the solid lap time. 4 minutes left to qualify. You can already see mostly the entirety of the grid heading into the pits. They're going to take a while before they come out for that one last run, but I think I'm going to go ahead and assume the drivers who are out on track, unless they plan on doing multiple laps on the same set of tires, this is edging towards the end of qualifying for them. Tope, Sasha, as well as Javier Domin.
Yeah, the last 2 drivers currently on a quicker run. For Sparky, it was about 600ths that he was quicker. Tope, 1.5 tenths, and indeed Sparky's going to come in, so he feels there is more still in the bank. And Tope decides to do the same, so he thinks there's more improvements to be made. And indeed, if they come in now, they still have time for an extra lap. Then Javier Domin, he was off the track now as well. But he was off... No, a different strategy, really. As he's now coming around in Sector 2. Not sure if he's still flooring it or if he has already aboard this lap. He did come out a little bit wide, but he's still quicker that is quick enough for a provisional pole position if he can keep it going. Purple sector 2 as he comes to the speed trap just before turn 15, and then the final corner. If he can nail it here as well, if he can prove just a little bit more, is going to be enough for a provisional pole position. Can Javier Domin do it here tonight in Bahrain? He does! It's a 1:27.318. His quali is over, but he has pole position in his hands with 12 drivers out there still up for a shot to snatch it away from him.
Yeah, and you can see a bunch of those drivers coming out of the pits as we speak. Jeremy Gallagher was in the pits, now out. I'm pretty sure he's had his eye on the timesheets just as much as we have, and his spot's gone for the first time this qualifying session. So he's going to come back for it, hopefully, or hope to come back for it, and so will the other drivers try and attempt the very same. Who's going to come out on top of this bunch with 13 drivers out on track around the Bahrain International Circuit? It's anyone's guess who's going to come out on top.
It is anyone's guess indeed. In the meantime, let us know in the chat who you think and take pole position here tonight. I think some of the drivers that we really have to look out for, well, obviously Jeremy Gallagher, who was a provisional pole holder and did improve on his lap in run 2, but also Daniel Parodi made a huge jump, about a 3/10 jump for now to be in P4. So also another driver to watch. And then maybe finally, yes, Simone Violo in that Ferrari. But we're now on board with Daniel Parodi. Let's go actual on board with the Haas driver and see if he can improve on his lap time.
Well, he did trump Violo once before, and he's put himself in the top 5, so that's a start. We've not seen him there before, at the very least. So, last race of the season. This is what we wanted to see anyway. He's flying through Sector 1, 800ths of a second up on his last time. As he enters Sector 2, keeps it as clean as he can. The red didn't kick out, so got a decent enough exit. And you'd like to think he's improving. This is the tricky corner. I'm not a fan of that one. I wish I knew what it was called, but I'm kind of happy I don't, considering I'm not a fan of the corner itself. But Javier Domin calls it quits in this qualifying session. He's still the fastest out there. And how's Sector 2 gone for Parodi? On the timesheets, we'll see what's 10th up on his own lap time, so he is improving. Violo is his closest competitor. Jeremy Gallagher not too far ahead too. So it's Sector 3 that he needs to get in the back for Parodi to possibly put himself on the front row at the very least, across the final corner on the main straight. Throttle all the way down. Second fastest, puts himself on the front row for now.
Yeah, it's just 7,000ths of a second. Too little to snatch pole position here as we see Jeremy Gallagher go 9,000ths of a second quicker in Sector 1. For Simone Violo, he is just behind him. Oh, Simone Violo goes off pretty badly at the beginning of Sector 2, so he's not going to improve on his time. Tomas Kukeni is still on track as the flag has been out for quite a bit. The first driver to come round is going to be one of the Red Bulls, and that will be Harry, who puts himself in P4. Tomas Kukeni, in the meantime, a 10th.5 quicker as Emil Lundell comes down in P7. But Tomas Kukeni on for a good improvement, and this improvement could be enough for a jump to P4. Let's see if he can do that as well. As Modesto Mena goes to P9 with the Williams. Another jump. Andres Franco, P8. Tomas Kukeni across the line. It's P4 indeed. A 1:27.4 dead. And that means there's just a driver to watch, and that's Jeremy Gallagher. Oh, he goes wide.
Sector. Not like that, Jeremy. Not like that. I wonder what the time ends up being, though. He stays third fastest, no improvement, but that was a stellar Sector 2 from him. Oh, it begs the question, if that penultimate and final corners were spot on, where would have Jeremy Gallagher started?
He was, I believe, 33,000 quicker, which would be 9,000ths too slow for a pole position. But if he had indeed nailed that final corner, then he perhaps could have won it. But yeah, what ifs, they don't matter. What happens is what is on the timesheets. And that means we have a pole position for the driver who went for an off-sync qualifying session. Javier Domin puts the McLaren up on top with a 1:27.318. Second, Daniel Parodi, 7,000ths off. And also with a 1:27.3, Jeremy Gallagher in the Alpine in P3. Then it's followed by Tommaso Kenny for Mercedes. I believe, was it Kubitresiak in P... No, Kubitresiak's in P8, so it must be Harry's teammate, Harry 12i, who is in P5. And once we have our result screens here, we can see that Simone Viola's Ferrari's on P6. Then Samuel Lundell with the Alfa Romeo Kick, which is also going to have a team name change next year. Mercedes-AMG Petronas top A P9, and then Sandras Franco, Modesto Mena, Sasha, aka Sparky, and finally Noel Carmen coming around in the McLaren P13. What are your thoughts about the race, Sat Axter?
I mean, ahead of the race, looking at a couple of the names, Hartwell putting it fifth fastest ahead of his teammate Kuba. Great to see that. Bit of a left field result, I'd say. Javier Domin, I mean, to think, the last couple of minutes of qualifying, while there was all the zipping around track, all the, frenzy, you could say, and all the commotion, he was probably, got his legs on top of the table, chilling in the pits and just watching it unravel, holding on to provisional pole, and ended up winning pole position as well. So, well done to Javier Domin. I'm particularly interested what happens heading into turn 1 with Parodi involved on the front row.
Yeah, so Parodi has only made 3 race appearances so far, but has already shown that he's definitely a competitor to watch for future seasons here at PSGL. He has gotten, I believe, a permanent seat at Haas as one of the other drivers has left towards the end of the season, but definitely a driver to watch for next season. Likely for F4, maybe even for higher up classes. Yeah, and I think one can only wonder where our championship winner is going to end up again, because he was even challenging drivers in PC F2, at least for qualifying time. So maybe we'll see him not one step up, but even 2. And I believe Nico Benz, I've even seen at some F1 races. I thought I saw him yesterday. Do you know?
No, not at all.
I've seen him before in some higher up races as well. Well, that shows why he could just come in as a reserve driver and take the race win straight away. So he's also one of the drivers to watch for future seasons. But for tonight, we're going to zoom in here on the season finale of season 35 for PCF4. So as Circa has already mentioned, 5.4 kilometers long. The first race that we had here was in 2004, so quite some time ago. 3 DRS zones, one with detection before turn 1 with the zone from turn 3 to turn 4. Then detection before turn 9 for the zone goes from turn 10 to 11. And the final one, detection before turn 14. And then the zone before the start finish straight as we go with 4 and 5 red lights before we will be on our way. And the lights are off and off we go. And a good start for Javier Domin on the outside with the McLaren, but has to leave a little bit of space if Daniel Parodi wants to try and outbrake him. They do go side by side. It's a later braking by Parodi. They're still side by side, but Daniel Parodi takes over the race lead, at least for now.
Oh, we're out there racing, and what a start for Parodi, huh? He's in the race lead. Javier Domin missed it. Viola out of nowhere on the outside of Tommaso Kenny makes it up in a P4. But and of course, Thomas is not giving up. He's on the inside of Viola for a brief moment before he has to back off, because on that part of the track, you do not want to stay on that line. And onwards we go for the race, and Kokeni has company. Is ready to lie alongside, around the outside, try to keep it level with the Mercedes, only to fall short ahead as Sector 2.
Yeah, really nice overtaking opportunity by Harry there, heading into turn 7. But just not able to make it past, and after turn 10 indeed had to after turn 9 had to yield, heading into turn 10. So he now finds himself in P6, dropped 1 position, but that's because of Simone Viola picking up 2 positions at the start. But look at Daniel Parodi go. Already has a 1.5 second lead, 1.6 even, onto Javier Domin. So a great start by Daniel Parodi, but I think maybe the tires could have some play in that. And indeed, as we see, most of the drivers on the hards, 4 drivers on the softs. That's Daniel Parodi, Simone Viola, who now picks up a position, goes to P3, Andres Franco and Noel Carmen. And finally, Sparky, the only driver on the medium. So all compounds present, but we're going to see some different strategies all the way throughout tonight. And look at that, Simone Viola picks up yet another position. He's now up 4 places and finds himself in P2.
Yeah, battles all around as you'd expect. The soft runners are making good time on those tires for now. Well, no one's slacking, that's all you like to see. But even the hard runners, Jeremy Gallagher, all over the gearbox of Javier Domin for the entirety of Sector 1 on lap number 2. And you can see the rear kicking out ever so slightly for Javier Domin, but he keeps it on track, of course. Keeps it steady and opens up about a 3/10 gap to Jeremy Gallagher, late breaking into the trickiest corner, I'd like to think, of Bahrain International Circuit. But onwards the race goes. This is the battle to watch out for, and that's Jeremy Gallagher and Javier Domin. Up in front, though, humongous gap almost, at least relatively humongous. A second's gap between Parodi and Violo.
Yeah, that gap was 1.6 just a little bit earlier, but Simone has done a great job at cutting that gap down, and Danielle will want to keep that at over a second, so no DRS can be used in the next lap, because remember, it's lap 3. That means DRS is going to be activated, and Simone Violo has actually gotten within DRS range just about. If he can keep it close. Look at that. He's so much quicker than Daniel Parodi out on this lap, and I think using almost all of his DRS, he has done enough to get within range. But yeah, Daniel Parodi 24%. For Simone Violo it's 11. Javier Domin is a bit more 35. But I think Jeremy Gallagher has the most, and indeed does, with 76%. But DRS levels not too important just yet. That is going to be key at the end of the race. But a lot of different strategies coming into play. And with Danielle and Simone on the softs means that they will be the first ones to stop.
In the midfield, battles continue with Kokeni clearly missing out on his positions due to Andres Franco being on the softs. Of course, now he finds himself in a soft runner sandwich of sorts with Kalman steaming through the track, closing in on him. And Kokeni holding on somehow to keep that gap to Franco within half a second.
Yeah, meantime, Javier Domin has fallen outside of DRS window with Simone Violo, which means that behind him, Jeremy Gallagher is going to be breathing down his neck. We're now on board with Emil Lundell, who is starting to get closer to Kuba Trasiak, but with the DRS training emerging from P3 all the way to the end means I think it is wisest to focus indeed on Jeremy Gallagher. See if he can overtake Javier Domin. Looks like he does not have the pace just now that he had in qualifying just moments ago, and he's about to be overtaken for a third time, this time by the Alpine driver, and with DRS it should be smooth sailing by, and it indeed will be. Simone Violo managed to cut the gap to Daniel Parodi up until the 3/10, but a little bit of a slide there for Jeremy Gallagher that might open up the door for Javier Domin to come back at him, but with the second DRS zone only being very short, it won't be enough for him to come side by side.
Yeah, tiny fumble from Javier Domin ahead of the entrance of the back straight in Sector 3. Cost him that position on the main straight. Now, 4 positions up for Simone Violo, 4 positions for Franco, 6 for Noah Carmen, all soft runners. And of course, Parodi leading this race with a half a second's gap to Violo. Now, what I'm thinking is, soft runners, they're having the time of their lives out there on track for now. Rest of them hards and a combination of mediums as well. Just one medium runner in the form of Sasha. He's all the way down in P13. So, how run on the softs, because you don't want to be battling too much on those softs, because as it is, they're not going to last too long, will they?
They likely won't last too long indeed, as we had you cut out for just a moment, but you came back right at a moment so we could hear what you were saying at the end. But indeed, we see the softs are still good, at least for now, and they'll have to try and maintain that gap to the hard runners to help them out later on. And I think this would mean for Daniel Parodi just to let Simone go at least for this lap and then take him back the next turn. Don't defend too much, don't lose too much time, because your fight is going to be with Danielle, with Simone together, but not for now. For now, you have to make sure that your different strategy is going to pay off and that you don't come under pressure of the hards of Jeremy Gallagher, Javier Domin, and Harry 12i. But more about that, of course, later on throughout the race. We have 29 laps in total. This is lap 5.
Yeah, barely lap number 5. Who would have thought we'd already see a swap in race leader twice so far, and a pole sitter finds himself running in P4, even behind another hard runner in the likes of Jeremy Gallagher. But onwards they go, of course, locking up through the particular corner I'm not too much of a fan of. That gap between Parodi and Jeremy Gallagher is cut by half a second now. It's 1.5, used to be 2 seconds or so. Midfield does seem like where the action is. Of course, Carlman has made the pass on to Kokeni, rightfully so. He's on the softs. And he's trying his best to close in on Andres Franco. Up ahead, also on the softs. So a bit of action perhaps in the midfield soon enough, as long as those softs hold.
And it looks like we're starting to approach the zone, approaching the lap where those softs are going to fall off. The gap towards the top two is becoming a little bit smaller, although Andres Franco still manages to keep the pressure on to Harry, but Harry has gone out of the slipstream. Andres is not following it, so it looks like he is happy where he is for the time being, just making sure he stays within DRS range and then go for a switch later on. But the key is also here, what tires are you going to switch for? As a soft runner, it would be most ideal to go for the mediums and try and finish it that way. For the hard runners, they have 2 options. Can they extend their stint and go for softs with a heavy attack on the end, or are they just going to keep it safe and go for the mediums? I don't think the soft runners will be too keen on going for the hards later on, especially not if you're leading the race right now.
Yeah, the more I look at the gaps themselves, you can already see, that gap you mentioned, Parodi and Gallagher, now 2/10 down, and yeah, just dabbling around that area. And in the midfield, again, closer. Kokeni on the hards, he's much closer to Noah Carmen, who's been struggling to close that gap to Franco up ahead. So, yeah, clearly soft runners starting to struggle up ahead for the race lead. We might just see these 2 soft runners battle it out right before they head into the pits.
Yeah, it looks like the soft runners are indeed starting to fall back a little bit. The gap with Jeremy Gallagher and Daniel Parodi is closing down into 1.3 seconds. We can also see that Andres Franco, Noah Carmen, those gaps are starting to increase a little bit. But I think Daniel Parodi will want to come by Simone Violo. He's saved up a little bit of time. He has the DRS there. Will go side by side into turn 1. And it is going to be a clean pass by. Not too much defending going on there. But then again, that is not what you want to do too much on these softs for now. So they just keep it going as is. But the gap is already quite close. And it looks like Simone Violo is already coming side by side, as we can see the battle emerge from Jeremy Gallagher's car view. And because of that fighting heading into turn 4, means that Jeremy is approaching the DRS zone.
Playing it right into the hands of the hard runners at this point. We're in lap number 7, folks. Another significant change in position would be Kokeni. He's made the pass on to Carmen, got his position, which was P7, back, and he is all set inside to do the same for Franco up in front. So the hard runners have a smirk on their face, because they know soft runners, their tires are falling off.
Their tires are falling off indeed. That means that the entire field is starting to come together like a harmonica. Call it the harmonica effect if you like, with all drivers within DRS range of one another. Although Emil Lundell has to pick up the speed just a little bit more. Now also, Wahhavi Amin just did. Emil Lundell now just outside of it. Up ahead though, Simone Violo. That gap with Daniel Parodi is almost non-existent, so we'll likely see Danielle come by at the start. Oh, a little bit of a slide for Danielle in turn 15, but should still be enough to go for a pass, at least hopefully for him. Well, the gap is quite far. He does look at the inside, but because of that slight mistake, now can't come by, as in the meantime we see a lot more overtakes happening. Thomas Kokeni getting past Andres Franco. Noel Carmen overtaken by both Kuba Teresiak and Tope. Then two also having a little bit of a fight, but Kuba Teresiak keeping to that P8. And now Daniel Parodi heading into turn 4 retakes the race lead.
That was probably the bravest move I've seen in sim racing history in a long time. Tope is rear kicking out so much so for that one position against Carmen, and now he battles it out. There's contact between the two, pushes Carmen off track as well. Oh, he loses not one but two positions in the mix. Modesto Mena says thank you very much and goes into the points.
Might be something said about that at the end of the race, as we see a slight tap from Noel Carmen onto Modesto Mena. Thankfully, that does not cause any damage, at least as far as we can see. But this is not good news for Noel because his softs are starting to give up. He's falling back towards the back of the field, and still on lap 8, it's still a little bit too early to stop for those hards unless you want to go for a two-stopper, but I don't think the drivers out here will want to do that. So he will have to extend his stint a little bit more and perhaps even all the way to lap 12 or 13, so has quite a way to go still. Up ahead, gaps are also closing in, but the gap so far closest is all the way at the back, where our medium runner is slowly starting to pick off the hard runners, and indeed gets by Emil Lundell.
How would you look at that? Sasha's strategy somehow working out at the back of the pack for now. Mind you, Carmen was running P7 just a couple laps ago. He finds himself P11 now. That's the only soft runner to have lost so many positions over the last 2 laps or so. The rest of them have been holding on somehow with 8 laps done on those set of softs. Of course, we're on lap number 9, folks, and Daniel Parodi continues to lead this race ahead of Simone Violo and Jeremy Gallagher in the top 3.
Yeah, as we now go on board with a man in P4, Javier Domin, who is getting closer and closer to Jeremy Gallagher. Looks like he will want to contest the Alpine driver up ahead to try and bring in the fight, but he's diving out of the DRS window. Well, not out of the DRS window, out of the slipstream there to not pick up too much dirty air from the Alpine up ahead. So it looks like he's comfortable where he is now. He doesn't want to get too close, perhaps ruin his tires. So he wants to try and go on as long as he can, which means for now he's not ready for an overtake onto P3.
Yeah, hopefully I didn't cut off too much. Regardless, the race is on. The race is on, all within a second of each other now, the entirety of a grid. Each car is within DRS range of the other in front. So I'm expecting moves, but not a single move I see in sights. Not even the hard runners taking the challenge to the soft runners. I almost thought for a second Violo was sneakily looking down the inside, but he decides to stay P2.
He stays P2 for now, and I think also in the second DRS zone here is not going to go for a real move as he comes down. And indeed, as we further look at the rest of the grid, it looks like nobody's really trying to go for a move now. So for now, we're just waiting for the pit stop sequences to start, and then we're going to see what really happens out there. Now, gives us some time to talk about Bahrain. As you know, it is the testing circuit for pre-season. Used to be that together with the circuit of Catalonia, there's of course more testing tracks that F1 has used in the past before, one most notably in Spain, Jerez. And while we're talking about Spain, there was an announcement regarding Spain, and starting 2026, we'll be heading out to Madrid, which I think means that we're going to say goodbye to the circuit of Catalonia.
Yeah, all's well that ends well, I guess. So with Circuit de Catalunya Barcelona, it's treated us to a bunch of great races. The recent changes were, in favor for most fans, I'd like to think, at least for me it was. And yeah, I'm excited for the new circuit regardless. Hopefully we get to see good racing action, but I've already gotten to hear all kinds of comments from my fellow fans about this track. A bit about that later, because the soft runners are heading into the pits. First ones in, Franco and Carmen. They're going to get onto the mediums, I reckon, or will it be the hards? Mediums it is.
Yes, mediums it is indeed, and well, we had a little bit of a delay there with Andres Franco coming out of the pits, but there's nothing that he should be concerned about, not losing any time there whatsoever. But now we're going to have to see what the pace is of these medium runners, how fast they can come round. And we see in the meantime Simone Violo is also getting closer to Daniel Parodi, so that might be an overtaking opportunity when they come round the start-finish straight for this start of lap 12 later on. Although it could also mean that the soft runners are about to come into the pits. But seeing that the medium runners have now gone out 18 laps ago, I think they're confident that they can make it last until the end. But is the stop just a little bit too early, or is this the perfect moment? It will at least be a moment for Andres Franco to pick up some positions, and perhaps Noel Carmen can do the same.
Possibly, just possibly could. We're lap number 11, And the only soft runs out there are our race leader and the one in P2. Exciting, isn't it, to think that if there was a surprise safety car, it would possibly play into their favor. Of course, the hard runners, drive on, race on, and that is the Haas heading into the pits. Violo gets the race lead as a result. Daniel Parodi heads into the pits for a different set of tires.
And also Emil Lundell comes in. He DNFs his car, so it looks like he will not be continuing, figuring that his race pace just wasn't good enough. Perhaps there was an issue with the car. We do not know fully. We're now on board with Daniel Parodi because we want to see if he stays ahead of Andres Franco. And I think it's going to be tied on the exit, but should just be enough. Actually, more than enough space there for Daniel Parodi. About 1.8, 1.7 seconds that he has left. But it means that Andres Franco definitely is going to pick up some positions when the other drivers come in. Now, Daniel's going to have some track position over Simone, but we will see towards the end that Simone will have at least one lap fresher tires. And I think the hard runners are going to stay out for a few more laps, so they will be the drivers to watch at the end of the race.
Yeah, probably some of them are even intending to switch to the softs at the tail end of the race. Could they possibly be that brave? We'll find out. Of course, the medium runners are going to be quick on their tail, on their gearboxes pretty much. Go heading into lap number 18, 17 perhaps. But for now, our sole soft runner leads this race ahead of Javier Domin, Jeremy Gagnon in the top three.
Yeah, we saw Simone use quite a bit of the ERS in the last lap, especially coming out of turn 14, so it was quite evident that he was going to come into the pits and change out these softs for some medium tires. In the meantime, Sparky has also come in, so likely he is going to switch for the hard compounds, because I don't see him making the softs last all the way for 16 laps towards the end of the race, and indeed goes for a set of hard tires. So a different strategy to all the other drivers, will likely be the only driver out there on hards. And if we look at the track, it shows that Andres Franco has closed the gap to Daniel Parodi and has also gone past Simone Violo. So it looks like the stop for Andres, at least for a time being, has worked out. Simone will have to cut back a gap of, I think, about 2 seconds up ahead to Andres Franco. We're going to see what the exact gap is in a moment as soon as they pass this sector, but I think it's about 1.5 seconds now, perhaps a little bit less, 1.4, and about that. We still don't see it on the timing screen. We'll see that later on. But we'll have to see how the gap comes down, because the gap from Daniel to Modesto Mena currently 16.3 seconds, but that's coming down a little bit as we see. But how much will it come down by? Actually quite a bit. It's already 15.9. So drivers up ahead on the hards will have to pick their poison and choose at what lap they want to come in if they want to have better track position or better tires at the end of the race.
Indeed, Mitch, and credit where credit is due. Franco, he's done a phenomenal job at not only getting that pit stop in his favor, but also, trying his best to keep it within, the right distance of Parodi, and he was almost fighting Parodi at one point. And I'd like to think he's gonna pick off that position soon enough. He's probably has more heat in his tires, and he is within DRS range as well. He's already peaking around the right hand side of the track on the main straight. A brave lunge on the inside, perhaps not, he says to himself, into turn 1, and he's gonna settle and stay in P9. He's gonna bide his time, wait for a fumble perhaps from Parodi, and then he'll be able to get that position.
Yeah, so for now, we are going back towards the fight up ahead, because the top 3 really is closing in to one another. 310s to Jeremy Gagnon, 310s to Harry 12i in the Red Bull. So a McLaren, an Alpine, and a Red Bull fighting for the P1 in the race for now. But it's not the net race lead, because when these drivers come in, they will find themselves behind at least Daniel Parodi, Andres Franco, Simone Violo, and if they wait too long, perhaps also behind Noel Carman. But the gap, with it being so close, it might be that one of these drivers is going to go for an overtake in a moment, and I'm not sure how much longer they are going to stay out. One can only imagine they're going to come in around lap 14, 15. If they want to go for a bit of an early pit stop, if they want to extend, perhaps 16, 17 might be better. And indeed, Jeremy Gallonay comes in as Harry and I believe Tomas Kokeni follow. In the meantime, Tope gets by Kuba Trasiek on the long straight, so he finds himself P2 for the time being. But that gap to the McLaren up ahead is 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, that was incredible. Incredible timing for the pit stop, at least. It almost seemed like they were all going to stay out on track. Of course, that's last minute lunch triggered multiple pit stops. Of course, as they come out, I reckon they're gonna be P9, P10. Okay, not too far behind, but yeah, they got a lot of work ahead of them. We're on lap number 15. Who's to say a safety car won't just happen out of the blue? Playing devil's advocate is probably not the wisest on the last race of the season, but hopefully the drivers can forgive me. We are around Bahrain after all. Javier Domin leads this race ahead of Tope and Kuba Tresiak in the top 3, and Modesto Mena out of nowhere finds himself possibly challenging for a podium position for now.
Indeed, for now, as they are among the 4 drivers yet to stop here with a net race lead for Daniel Parodi. But what I found most interesting is that Simone Viola came in 2 laps before Jeremy Gallonay, and Jeremy Gallonay is now 5 seconds behind Simone Viola. Simone Viola came in a lap after Daniel Parodi, is within DRS range. Andres Franco came in earlier, he's within DRS range of Daniel Parodi. So the drivers that just came out on the mediums have to do quite a good strategy there if they want to come too much closer. Kuba Trasiek in the Red Bull, the second Red Bull, also heads into the pits, leaving just Javier Domin, Tope, Modesto Mena out there on track. But I want to go for the fight for the provisional race lead because Daniel Parodi is under a lot of pressure by Andres Franco, and Simone Viola, they go 3 wide. Simone Viola tries to go for both, but just settles for 1 as he gets past Andres Franco. And this is what happens if you wait with overtaking. Simone cut down that gap and has now gone by.
Franco wants it back. You can already see him trying to peek down the inside, but of course he needs to be cautious. He doesn't want to send this race the wrong way. He's on lap number 16. He is in the mix of the drivers who were fighting for the lead earlier on. Now Franco, he's made up about 4 positions since race start, and he'd possibly be fighting for podium position soon enough. Of course, on the other end, Tope gets slapped with a 3-second time penalty. That's going to cost him.
That will cost him quite a bit because remember, he's still fighting for P2 in the championship. He needs to pick up more than 2 points actually, so 3 points if he wants to take P2 in the standing. So for that, P8 minimum is needed, but with a 3-second time penalty and the only driver so far with a time penalty, that is not looking too good for him, although he is going to try and make quite the comeback towards the end of the race. Now, we were talking about Jeremy Gallonay and the man behind him, about 5 seconds behind Andres Franco, Simone Viola, Daniel Parodi. That gap now after a lap and a half is down to 3.2 seconds. So it looks like the drivers that stopped later are on for a good one, as Tope has now come in and Simone Viola retakes the net race lead from Daniel Parodi.
Well, the gap between the hard runners and the medium runners haven't really changed over the last lap. It's been in that 12.5 second range or so. Of course, we did see, as you mentioned, Tope head into the pits. Of course, he's not risking too much. He is coming out on a fresh set of mediums, and he has come out on P11 for now. Javier Domin and Modesto Mena. I wonder what's running through their heads. What is the game plan? Because they've lost now about half a second over the last sector or so to the medium runners. You can see that time shrinking, that gap shrinking, and of course they are gonna hope with all their heart pretty much for the drivers on the mediums to battle it out and possibly just, waste time behind them.
Well, they're likely gonna come in at the end of this lap now. That means they will join back towards at the back of the grid, because Tope was around the position where they were. He stopped the lap earlier And it looks like Modesto Mena is still continuing for yet another lap, so he feels that if he stops a lap later, he will come out all the way at the back. But with the gaps not being too much, he could maybe take back on that. The real gap out there, though, is for Tope. If he can cut down 2.2 seconds to Sparky, Sasha up ahead, then it's suddenly all to play for. And we see Jeremy Gallonay. Want to see what this time behind Andres Franco is. That's 2.4 seconds. So he's slowly starting to close in. But Jeremy actually has a healthy lead over Harry and Tomasko Kenny. So he doesn't have too much to worry about. Perhaps later on he'll have to worry about Tope or maybe Javier Domin. But for now, I think the drivers really are worrying for Jeremy Gallonay. And that will be Andres Franco, Simon Violo, and Daniel Paroli.
Yeah, battles in the midfield though. Sasha and the AlphaTauri almost went into the rear of Noah Common, but gets the pass done. He is on the hards. A different strategy altogether in comparison to the rest of the drivers out on track. You can see Noah Common getting ever so close to the AlphaTauri. Oh, weaves to the right hand side of the track aggressively. Sasha, or perhaps just lost the rear in that part of the track. Unusual to see that on gravel, but somehow holds on to the position for now. Noah Common as well sitting P9. No changes, but Tope is in the mix. Gets alongside of the McLaren. Will he get alongside the AlphaTauri? No, he won't. He will tuck himself right behind. But for how much longer? He's got a fresher set of tires. Better set even in comparison to Sasha up in front. So a pass in sights for the man in the Mercedes.
Yeah, just look on the exit of turn 14 how much more speed he has. Has a lot of overspeed compared to Sparky up ahead, but he's wisely going to wait until the DRS zone, then make that overtake stick, and then try and close that gap onto drivers up ahead. Look at that, Modesto Mena comes in for soft, so he's going to try a different strategy and see if he can upset all the other drivers with that. In the meantime, Kuba Trzeziak managed to make a two-man move. At least tries to. It looks like he almost has made it stick. We're still on board with Tope, who's not giving up and stays ahead of Kuba Trzeziak. But Kuba really trying to go for a good move there. First overtaking Sparky and then going with the move onto Tope. Can't make that move stick just yet, but this means Tope is going to lose a little bit of time and now has a 2.6 second gap before he closes in with Tomasko Kenny. But up ahead, Jeremy Gallonay has almost caught up with Andres Franco. And that means that he is in a good position to try and go for the race win tonight, as Javier Domin has also gotten by Sasha now. So even though he stopped a lap later than Tope, 2 laps later than Kuba, he's within DRS range of the two.
Yeah, poor Sasha. He's been getting bullied out there at the back by the medium runners. And Javier Domin, what a fall from grace. He actually came out down in P12 after that pit stop. Mind you, this is our pole sitter we're talking about. So he's not had the best of races so far. It's great to see him getting into the groove and close that gap to a couple of the drivers up in front. Kuba Trzeziak insights. Tope not too far ahead even. So this battle at the back of the midfield pretty much is really heating up, and Javier Domin all over the back of that Red Bull. Well, I see a change in race lead. That is Parori back in the race lead, having made the pass to Violo. Sector 3 lights up
safety.
Yellow virtual safety car.
Yeah, it looks like we had a bit of an accident coming out of turn 15. A lost front wing for Sparky, as I think he went into the wall somewhat at the final corner of the track. Not entirely sure what happened there, but I think he was starting to fight with either Javier Domin or Modesto Mena. I think that would be Modesto Mena because he lost a little bit of time to the drivers up ahead. He also decides to change for the softs, which Modesto Mena is still on too. But for Modesto Mena, perhaps this virtual safety car doesn't come at the most ideal of times because his softs are fresh now, so he wants to make up time now, and he wants to close that gap as soon as he can. Andres Franco, perhaps, it's a little bit better because he was just starting to fall out of DRS range of Simon Violo, although is still outside of that, and if he doesn't claw back soon enough, Jeremy Gallonay is going to come by again. Harry Tomasko Kenny seemingly do not have the pace just yet. Tope keeps the gap almost the same to Tomasko Kenny, but I think he'll be looking in his rearview mirrors for Kuba and Javier Domin. And Modesta Mena, with the offset strategy, might still be someone to take into account.
Yeah, with this virtual safety car, you know, things haven't really been thrown into a frenzy. Of course, it is a virtual safety car only. How much of a difference the safety car would have made? Probably significant, especially with some of the drivers at the back being on the sauce. But here we go, folks. DRS enabled. Green all around. We are back racing. Passes in sights. Violo, 2/10 to the horse in front on the main straight. No one behind him, only one ahead. Make that none. Violo back in the race lead, and Parodi down to P2. Right behind, Jeremy Gallagher makes the pass onto Andreas Franco.
Yeah, now we also see Javier Domin get past Kuba Trzeziak. So that means that he is a person to watch as he makes this march up top. In the meantime, close the gap towards Tommaso Kenny. So that means that Tommaso Kenny and Harry will have to worry about that for now. Jeremy Gallagher also has a gap, about 2/10s that he needs to close down in order to join in with the fight that Daniel Parodi and Simone Viola have, as Modesto Mena also gets past Kuba Trzeziak. Let's actually watch Modesto Mena, who's currently the fastest man on track with a purple first sector. And yeah, if he wants to go for a fastest lap, he would have to do it now. And he could pick up an extra point with that, which might come in handy for the final championship results. Although I can't tell you exactly how many points he has to his name just for a time being. He's still 7/10 away of Javier Domin, but probably will need to go together with him to try and close the gap up ahead and overtake some more drivers.
Yeah, I'm getting excited heading into the last 8 laps of this race. You can see the gap shrinking by the sector pretty much, but the soft runners really haven't started going, have they? Of course, significant gap to make up for the AlphaTauri driver Sasha right now. Of course, he had that incident that brought out the virtual safety car, but Modesto Mena, no change. 2 laps on the sauce, no change whatsoever. He stayed P9, and that gap isn't shrinking. It stayed half a second. And of course, once again, folks, Parodi makes the pass on Violo. He's back into the race lead. So I'm going to assume this is going to go back and forth between Parodi and Violo, and Jeremy Gallagher is going to patiently watch. But the Mercedes pair are seemingly battling it out. Tope makes the pass up into P6.
Yeah, we just saw that fight down the main straight where Tope came around the inside of Tommaso Kenny, made that move stick. And now the next person in his sights is going to be Harry 12i, as we are still on board with Modesto Mena, who's getting closer to Javier Domin, but it's not an easy one to pass, as Sasha Sparky has now retaken the fastest lap from Modesto Mena. But this could hurt Modesto Mena's advance, because he's behind the driver that he was battling before, so this is not going to be an easy driver to pick up. His tires are still fairly fresh, and even though his our compound softer, it's still not just a clear-cut move, and in just a few more laps, about 2, his advantage is going to go away as we see Javier Domin at the inside of Kenny Tamas. That is a very bold move to make there. Now in that turn, and he makes the move stick, so he's ahead of Tommaso Kenny, and now Modesto Mena will have to follow suit straight away, and he does with a late lunge into turn 14.
Yeah, high time Modesto Mena made a pass on track given his choice of tires, but Javier Domin, it seems like he's coming back for redemption. He is sick and tired to be at the back of the pack, having qualified in pole position. He is making that climb count. He's up at a P7. Of course, let's not forget he's lost 6 positions so far. Switch of race lead, Violo back up, and what a move by Tope onto Harry 12i. Oh, here comes Javier Domin on the outside. He's gonna stay wheel to wheel off the Red Bull, gets ahead and gets up in a P6.
And immediately Modesto Mena around the inside of Harry 2. Harry, in the space of just 3 corners, loses 3 positions to the drivers that have the fresher tires, that have the tire advantage over them. And this is good news for them, because the pack with Tope, Javier Domin and Modesto Mena will have to close the gap to Andres Franco up ahead. That is now 2.5 seconds, but it's already coming down. But the question is, will it come down quick enough for them to close the gap before the end of the race? And if it does, they have a real chance of still winning the race, because they're going to have fresher tires towards the end. Let's have a little bit look at the ERS levels for the drivers up ahead. So Modesto Mena, 44%. It's 73 for Javier Domin. Tope's got 30. Andres Franco's got 54. Jeremy Gallagher, 65. Simone Viola's on 84. That's the most so far. And Daniel Parodi, 49%. So ERS levels wise, the best news for Simone Viola, but he's got a 3-second time penalty to his name, so that might already rule him out for a race win.
Yeah, Javier Domin getting impatient behind Tope, almost going into the rear of that Mercedes in the back straight, and now on the main straight he's gonna pick him off. pretty easily. Violo getting that race lead back, but here comes Modesto Mena, not on just the Mercedes but on the McLaren too this time around. Down the inside, he sent the car. Can he hold on to the position that Williams somehow holds on, and up in a P5 he goes. Finally, he's getting into the groove of those soft tires.
This is exactly the move that he needed to make. He had to get in front of Javier Domin. Now it's a 1.7 gap to Andres Franco, but his tires are very old, and Modesto Mena still has a little bit of life left in that soft that will give him the extra advantage, and he knows he has to close down that gap as soon as he can. But in doing so, he will pull along Javier Domin and Tope with him, meaning that they are going to join in with the fight. But look at that. The gap now, 1.1 seconds, almost fully closed it down. Has actually fully closed it down, but does not have DRS just yet. Is using his overtake to keep it closed. But I think at the start of the main straight, he will have DRS from Andres Franco. And that means that the top 7 is now within DRS range of one another. So more people join in with the fight, and the late stops for Modesto Mena and Javier Domin might still pay off towards the end. As we come across the line, we have 5 laps to go.
Oh, things are getting exciting around Bahrain, and would you look at that, once again we are possibly going to see a swap in the race lead. Of course, Parodi's going to make that pass, rightfully so, but what about in the midfield? Who's going to come? Jeremy Gagnon peeks down the inside, he might be able to get the Ferrari, perhaps. Dives down the inside, regardless, stays wheel to wheel of the Ferrari for a brief moment, but will have to stay P3 for now. But clearly he is showing intention. He wants P2, he wants the race lead even, and who's to say he can't get it?
Definitely true, but he also feels the hot breath from Javier Domin and Modesto Mena. Perhaps Tope too, but yeah, with the penalty, won't be up for contention. But they have fresher tires. For Modesto Mena, it's even a softer compound. So that is something he'll have to worry about towards the end of the race. And also the less superior levels that he has in terms of ERS. But having about 50%, if he just gets a little bit more, because I believe deployment that they can use about 70 to 80% for a full lap. So won't need to fill it all the way down to the brim, but we'll need a little bit more if he wants to have a chance to hold off the other drivers. Simone Violo, not a really true combatant for him for this lap, as we have yellow in sector 2, and that is once again Sasha with a spin. But is that going to cause another virtual safety car? I don't think it will. So let's now go on board with Modesto Mena, because I think he's going to get by Andres Franco beginning of lap 26.
Yeah, well before turn 1, well before turn 1, he has almost made the pass pretty much. And up in front, of course, Violo gets that race lead. Jeremy Gagnon once again peeks down the inside, but would you look at that? Just like that, Franco's out of the picture. Modesto Mena might just be all over Jeremy Gagnon's gearbox momentarily. Parodi comes back for his race lead on the same lap. We've not seen him do that before, and he's back up into P1.
Back up into P1, but this is good for Daniel Parodi. He knows Simone's got that time penalty, so if he just stays ahead of Simone, he does not have to worry about Simone in the final lap, because if he gets overtaken, he'll drop back behind anyways because of the 3 seconds added to his final race time. So if he can keep the positions as it it's a spin. It looks like the Ferrari was hit by Jeremy Gagnon just behind. That completely ruins the plans that Simone Violo had, but that also might mean an investigation into Jeremy Gagnon towards the end. The person who this is good news for is Modesto Mena, because he is getting very close to Jeremy Gagnon, and once he gets past him, the floodgates are open.
Yeah, he's getting very impatient back there. To think there's about 3 laps left, and he is on the sauce, which are 7 laps old. Whether he would hold on to the podium positions is a matter of question now. Before, it was a matter of question whether he'd get into the podium positions, but Violo somehow made it easy. But of course, Jeremy Gagnon will be investigated post-race, I'm sure. 8 positions up, and here comes Javier Domin onto Franco, gets ahead, stays ahead even, up in a P4. Our pole sitter has made his way back up from P12 all the way up into P4, along with Modesto Mena, who qualified all the way down there and made up 8 positions.
Yeah, so for now, the real fight is going to be between our top 5. So, our race winner tonight likely is either going to be Daniel Parodi, Jeremy Gallané, Modesto Mena, Javier Domin, or Andres Franco, as the drivers in P6 and 7 have a penalty. But we also have to look at top 8. Is he going to finish within the top 8? If he does, then that's good news for him. And as it stands now, with the gap that he has to Harry is enough, which would keep him in P6 and would be enough for him to clinch P2 in the championship. As we approach our final 3 laps, Tasha is going to come in perhaps for another set of soft tires or to DNF. Already has the fastest lap time, I believe, so doesn't have to worry about that too much. But I'm really curious to see what Modesto Mena can do, and also curious what is going to happen to Jeremy Gallané after the end of the race, if there's going to be an inquiry into that. And also Javier Domin, who is now hot on Modesto Mena's tail. Who is going to take the race win? It's all to say. But what I'm curious about now is that, sir, who do you think is going to win?
Oh, it's anyone's guess. Who would have thought Javier Domin would have come back the way that he did? Who would have thought Modesto Mena out of nowhere would be fighting not for just for P3, but he's coming for P2. Jeremy Gallané finds himself in a pickle almost, makes the pass on to Daniel Parodi, and just like that, Mena follows, and Parodi on that main straight loses not just 1 but 2 positions on the penultimate lap.
Yeah, now Modesto Mena using a little bit of ERS to defend, but look at that. Down the inside comes Javier Domin, and he also picks off Daniel Parodi. Daniel dropping 3 positions as well in the time spent of 4 corners, and that is not the news that he was waiting for. This, however, is good news for Javier Domin, because I think he is ready to go for a potential race win here tonight, and we see Daniel Parodi trying everything that he can. Now, Javier using some ERS to defend. Daniel doesn't have much left. Javier's got 44%, Modesto Mena's got about none left, Jeremy Gallané is about 30% as he used a bit more, so Javier Domin has the superior levels of ERS out there, but will it be enough heading into the final lap? Within 2 minutes, we will know our race winner. Let us know in the chat who you think is going to win it.
Yeah, this lap is going to be crucial without a doubt. Oh, would you look at that? Javier Domin chasing Modesto Mena, who's on the softs. And mind you, that's not a fresh set of softs. That's 9-lap-old softs. Oh, you got to feel for Modesto. He must be giving it everything there. He's down to 13% ERS even. And just like that, folks, on the main straight comes Jeremy Gallané. He is on the mediums. Starts the final lap of this race. Modesto Mena on the softs to follow Javier Domin in the top 3. Modesto Mena takes a cheeky peek down the inside, but he's aware of his surroundings. He knows Javier Domin is coming. He needs to make this pass as quick as he can to leave Jeremy Gallané and Javier Domin fighting off, at least through sector 2 at the very least, but he's stuck. He in P2. He cannot make that pass for the race lead.
Yeah, indeed, can't make the pass for the race lead just yet. There will still be a few more overtaking opportunities. There's 1 more DRS zone, and of course the fight all the way down to the main straight. But it looks like Jeremy has successfully held off the attack so far and has a little bit of ERS just to defend it. But we'll need to use that now down the last DRS zone, because the drivers behind him are super close. It's just 3/10s to Modesto Mena. It's another 3/10s to Javier Domin, defending the inside, coming back at it, but it's a late lunge from Modesto Mena. He's side by side. Isn't it enough to go for the overtake? They're side by side heading into the right-hander. This is exciting. Heading into turn 14, later braking by Jeremy Gallané around the outside. Modesto Mena wants to stay. They're still side by side. Just 1 corner to go, and 3 cars now fighting for the race win.
Oh, onwards we go. Modesto Mena, the bravery of the man who's made those passes count. 9 positions up from race start. It's going to be a photo finish to the line. Jeremy Gallané somehow holds on by 300ths of a second to Modesto Mena to take the race win of the season finale of PSGL F4. This season, my oh my, what a way to wrap up the race. What a way to wrap up the season, folks. Jeremy Gallané, your winner. Modesto Mena finishes P2 after 11 laps on the soft tires. And Daniel Parodi out of nowhere holds on to a podium position. I don't know whether that'll stay, but somehow Javier Domin has found himself retiring from this race before crossing the finish line.
I'm not entirely sure how that happened, because he's still there. So maybe we'll read something about that in the chat in a moment's notice. And yeah, as we mentioned before, perhaps we will see an investigation into Jeremy Gallané still. So he does have the provisional race win for now, but I'm not sure if that's going to say. For Toppy, at least, it's enough to secure P2 in the standings, and for Alpine, it was already enough to secure their championship at the Constructors. But the championship, of course, of PSGL F4 here in Season 35 is a driver. The other Alpine driver who's unfortunately not here tonight, Joris Kuze, has won it with 6 race wins to his name out of 11 races, and he only participated in 10. That's quite astonishing.
Yeah, absolutely, Killian. Honestly, Modesto Mena getting driver of the day with the game. I will agree with the game as well. It's very rare that I actually agree with this game. I'm pretty sure folks watching as well as you, Myth, will agree with me on that. But yeah, what a race. With gasping for air, I'm also just fascinated, and I'm happy. I'm here behind the mic alongside you to witness that wonderful race, and hopefully folks watching enjoyed it just as much.
It indeed was quite an exciting season finale here. Even though we only had 13 racers out of the 20 that we normally have, we still had a finish tooth and nail all the way down to the line, with the top 3 finishing within 3/10 of one another, which shows how close it was. But that last lap lunge by Modesto Mena, almost enough to get the overtake onto Jeremy Gallané, and it was actually within 2/10 that the top 3 finishes. But the provisional race win goes to Jeremy Gallané, although investigation will be pending. Modesto Mena from P11 on the grid to P2, finishing out here tonight. Daniel Parodi in P3. Andres Franco with his early pit stop means that he finishes P4. Then it's Tope, P5 for him, but enough for second in the championship. Then it's Samasco Kenny, Simone Violo, Kuba Tresiak, Noel Carmen, and Sparky, who finishes in P10. And some late DNFs for Javier Domin and Harry 12, which I'm not sure what caused that, but perhaps we will hear some more about that later on.
Yeah, I mean, the more I think about it, Jeremy Gallané, he was the reason for that incident, along with Simone Violo. So I'm pretty sure Violo won't have nice things to say about Jeremy unless it unraveled a different way. But yeah, unfortunate the way it turned out for him. And credit where credit is due. I think the biggest winner out of this race, regardless of not having won the race itself, is Modesto Mena. What a race that he's driven, and what a way to end the season.
What a way to end the season indeed. And before we're going to take a look at the final standings, we'll go to a quick intermission break, and hopefully we'll also have a driver to interview. We'll be back in about a minute. And we are back with the conclusion of the championship here tonight at PSGL PCF4. I'm still your host for tonight. My name is Mitsky. We just witnessed a great race to the finish in Bahrain, Zat Exter. What a great final lap that was. I really thought at the end of turn 1 that nobody was going to contest Jeremy Gallané for the race win there. But that lunge by Modesto Mena was something else, and I'm really surprised that did not end in tears.
Yeah, that's the beauty of sim racing, isn't it? You just need one of the drivers to be brave enough to take the fight to the other, and onwards, we'll go on to some spectacular racing action. This is why I was always mentioning that it's so unfortunate to see some of these drivers retire so prematurely into races. And today, I mean, think about Modesto Mena. If he had called it quits early on just because he had qualified, way at the back, or perhaps, picked the wrong tire, picked at the wrong moment, but everything that spell of his right after that pit stop onto the sauce he went. He had 10 laps. He gave it everything he could, made the passes count every time, and he proved me wrong even, didn't he? I mean, at one moment after 2 laps on the sauce, I was thinking, scratching my head and thinking, why isn't he making passes? But then slowly, patiently, he made sure he picked off the drivers one by one. In fact, he followed through along with Javier Domin for the longest time.
Fair enough. Well, in the meantime, we get a call about what happened with the 2 late DNFs that we saw. And it turns out if you leave the lobby early, that means that the standings are impossible to show the race results correctly. And that is why we had those 2 DNFs late on during the race, which did change up the order a little bit. But in the end, for the championship, did not matter that much. One more look then at the calendar and then our drivers and constructor standings. I'll quickly take you through the calendar, then I'll give the honors to Zetaxter to go over the drivers championship, and then finally I'll be rounding off with the constructors before we're taking a look at the waiting room on Discord to see if there's any drivers to interview. For now there is not, so that means I'll first take you through the calendar that we've had in season 35. So season 35 was full with 11 races. We started in 2023, and after the holiday break, we ended here tonight on January 25th with the final race in Bahrain. We started off the championship in Japan before we went on to Qatar and Hungary, where we've had some nice races. The craziest race this season, definitely after our first break in Vegas. That is the race to watch back for you folks. So if you are wondering which race I should tune into, definitely check out the Vegas race. That last lap was even crazier than what we saw tonight in Bahrain. And once again in Austria, we also had some great fights all the way at the end. The final 3 to 4 laps, super exciting. With Monza, perhaps a little less exciting, but an early exit for our eventual championship winner after he was taken out just in front of the parabolic. And then just before the holiday break, we still had Singapore, race 7, a street circuit, a street race, but quite a nice race that we had there. Then after the holiday break, we went to Spain before heading out to Miami, seeing the championship decided in Silverstone. And then tonight, the constructor standings also decided in Bahrain. But to take you through the driver standings, will be Zetaxter.
Yeah, I mean, Joris, what races he's driven, just looking back at thinking back about all the races that he's driven, each one a significant number of wins throughout the season. So credit to him. He is our champion of season 35 here at PSGL F4 PC. And of course, Elliot Norin, his P2 is trumped. He didn't show up for the race. Tope, he managed to score some points and pick off second place in the driver's standings. Credit to him. What could have been for Simone Violo is one of question. But yeah, he has to stay in P4. Of course, I will mention a couple of other significant drivers down the order. Javier Domin, that 3rd place should count for a little bit, and he should be able to jump into the top 5. Modesto Mena, I mean, the way I'm looking at it, he's all the way down in P50. He was P15.
Yeah, it was P15.
That's pretty much the highlights. Yeah, that's pretty much the highlights of the driver's standings. Significant, jumps in terms of positions in driver's standings goes to show why you need to show up for races, give it everything, and credit where credit is due. Modesto Mena showed.
He definitely did show up tonight. Yeah, as we could see in the standings, as you could see on the screen too, the top 4 really quite apart from all the rest, but the top 5 really not too far away, all the way down to P16. And with Modesto Mena, if he picks up 12 points for tonight, 28 points, that would move him up all the way to P8, although Jeremy Galanet is going to end up just a little bit ahead of him. And I think Daniel Parodi will also stay ahead. So we'll take a few positions. But if he manages to inherit a race win from Jeremy in case he gets a penalty, might be some more places that he can win there. Cornangolo and Benasek were in there. Javier Domin with that late DNF doesn't get points either. So there are some positions to still take, although it won't matter too much. Perhaps heading into the next season, something to look for, because Modesto Mena only raced in 3 races this season, with a P4, a P4, and now a provisional P2. So for next season, definitely a driver to watch. Then I'll take you through the constructor standings. After we saw that one of the Alfa Romeo drivers wasn't coming out there tonight, we had that championship decided, although with a professional race win for Jeremy Gallonnet was also enough to secure it for Alpine. Before tonight, they were on 137 points. They'll add some more points to their tally and clear that constructor standings. Take the title there ahead of Alfa Romeo. Ferrari might come just a little bit closer. Mercedes is going to do some good results here as well. Good places in Bahrain, but not enough to improve on positions. And yeah, further down the line, AlphaTauri, McLaren super close to one another. But because of that, odd DNF, McLaren is not going to improve points. Modesto Mena, however, might actually bump Williams up from P7 up to P5. So that might help them out just a bit more. As further down the line, Aston Martin's Andres Franco's picked up a little bit of points, but I'm not sure if that is enough to jump some places in the standings. But of course, the only thing that matters here is who wins it, and that is Alpine. And for the drivers, Jonas Kuze, definitely a driver that we're going to see in some of the higher leagues next season at PSGL.
Yeah, ones to watch out for, ones to come, and I am excited for the next season already. I can't wait to see, what kind of calendar we might end up seeing, what kind of driver talent we might end up seeing. And apologies back there, I think I cut off significantly. Regardless, I am pumped, and hopefully the folks watching enjoyed the season just as much as we did, Myth.
I hope they definitely did so as well. And I think around the next time that we will be back, the real F1 season should be about to start if it hasn't started then already. But for now, in a few weeks' time, the test week for the 2024 season is going to start in Bahrain. And let's not forget the car reveals that are going to be starting from 2 weeks' time. And then the main championship competitors, at least that we expect them to be, going to reveal their cars in 3 weeks' time. So definitely be on the lookout for that. For now, this was it for PSGL PCF for season 35. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We definitely hope to be next season. Enjoy the rest. And still enjoy the end of PCF1, because that season finale is yet to come.
It's been a pleasure, Mitt. Yes, folks. See you in the next season.
It's been a pleasure indeed. Have a good one, and see you soon.
He's got the inside, but up here he's through on the left-hand side. Hooks the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Opmeer now to the last couple of corners now. His finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the GOAT is back. Jarno Opmeer wins the US Grand Prix in a stunning Grand Prix.